Hey, everybody, welcome to another Bourbon-n-Blockchain interview. Today, we're going to be talking with a special guest. Our special guest today is Steve with Yield Nodes. He's the CEO of the project. But before we get into that, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to get alerts about new videos or new interviews that we're posting, make sure you hit that notification bell. If you'd like to join our Discord community and join on the discussion, provide information and feedback, or contribute to the research that we're doing, and interact with our community, please check out our Discord link that'll be provided in the description down below. And without any more introduction, Steve of Yield Nodes, how are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, I'm quite good. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very, very humbled that you chose to speak with us. We're a pretty small group and we're obviously growing, and we reached out to you. I want to be very clear that we reached out to you through email and you responded immediately. You gave us a shot to talk to you and discuss who we were and what we were about.
Gladly.
Yeah, and I thought it was amazing that you were so willing to just openly discuss your project and work with us on camera. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's all hands on deck here. At Yield Nodes, everyone is kind of, chipping in. I like to stay close to the partner. We call them partners, the participants of Yield Nodes and the investors. Like to stay really close to them to understand more the needs and how we can provide a good service. And so, yeah, this is how we got connected, essentially.
Absolutely. And to expound on that a little bit, we'll provide a quick disclaimer to our users and to our listeners. Bourbon-n-Blockchain is a cryptocurrency project that we talk about cryptocurrency projects and topics, specifically with consideration to Yield Nodes. We have no partnership or affiliation with them. They have not provided us anything to speak with them. They've provided no compensation or payment, and they have not modified or encouraged our questions or anything about this interview. Is that correct, sir?
It's correct. I was ready to hand you over to Bitcoin, but apparently that's not needed. So okay.
Absolutely, we'll talk about that later, right?
Sounds good.
And specifically,
no
build
compensation, no agreements, just a regular interview where I'm trying to give some perspective on our offering, and you will ask some questions on behalf of your community.
Perfect.
And of course, we also got to add nothing is financial advice on here, and everything in DeFi is high risk. So, we always got to get that out there as well.
The same, if I can interject for a second, the same is for Yield Nodes. You should not, despite how good everything looks or what we talk about, you should never throw all your eggs in one basket, and you should always try, you can participate with us. We welcome you, but always try to, diversify and make no financial decisions that impact your future or your living your lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's very important for people to understand, and that's something that we discuss and talk about and encourage all the time. For example, we try to tell people when you get into DeFi specifically, and you're brand new to it, you shouldn't have more than 5 or 10% total of your investment portfolio into DeFi until you learn more about it. And as you grow and understand it more, you can increase that, maybe up to 25%, and try not to have more than one project dominate more than 5% of that portfolio, because then you're not diversified. And I think that's very important for people to understand, especially new investors.
That's true, and that's very true. Unfortunately for me, that ship has sailed because I'm a full-on, crypto aficionado. I have very little fiat money, but I do have hard assets, like real estate and stuff like that, but very little in banks.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
As a side note.
Yeah, well, that kind of segues into the beginning of this. I guess we could just ask you to provide, let's say that there's somebody new that's never heard of Yield Nodes and they're listening to this for the first time. Could you please provide us with a quick overview of the Yield Nodes project and what it does?
Okay, so Yield Nodes is now 2 years and 7 months old since we started the beta at the beginning. And what we are doing is we secure blockchain transactions by masternoding. Masternoding is it's very similar to staking, so that you put coins on a server that work as a collateral, and therefore this server becomes part of a blockchain and helps with the transactions, with the governance, and with the voting on it, and is essentially in as a reward, disperses coins. And this is what we do when you go through this, you open the website, which is nice. You can see we have a lot of different projects under the Yield Nodes umbrella, different coins. And these coins are all part of the Yield Nodes project, so that we diversify not only by setting up many masternodes in one coin, but that we have partnerships with many coins and masternode many different servers under different projects where we all hold a stake in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of our listeners and the people that are involved in our project are familiar with past projects, which kind of brings us up to one of the first topics that we kind of wanted to bring up is we think that the overreaching goal of this interview is to learn more about your project, but also to clarify some things and transparency. So the community that we have been a part of has been involved in lots of projects in the past that have gone well or may not have gone well. And some of the information that you learn over time is things to look at with projects. And because of this, we have more experienced users that came up with some questions and that are going to lead into this interview. So we're pretty excited to talk about some of these topics with you and, how these questions are brought up. So, the community wanted us to ask a little bit about the website itself. For example, are there any plans to update the website? A lot of our users had questions about, if there's enough information on there. Do you guys provide or plan to provide more information in the future and things like that?
The thing is this, Rico, the website is very basic, to put it bluntly. Like it has very little information and it's still kept like this for the past 2.5 years. And the reason for that is that Yield Nodes as a project has grown quite significantly over the past 2.5 years. And we provide, as soon as someone is a member with us, we provide a lot of information via newsletters, via chats, and with insights, with meetings about the money and about the we are considered to be very transparent. If we would update this website to reflect all the content that we have already made in the members area available and all the features that are not being shown here, we would get a lot more clients. And we are actually quite happy with the growth as is, because in our market of masternoding, we also have timers over our heads in a more, to speak a little bit more graphically. Like we need to bring the use cases for the coins to fruition. And for that, we do not need to collect a ton of money or a ton of new participants, but we need to follow our development process. And this would, so for example, if we would to make it, to say it bluntly, if we would make the website better, we would get more investors. And at this point in time, we do not need that. So we keep it basic. And we are very happy once someone signed up and sees what's actually inside. Most of the people are very surprised to find out that the website is not doing the project justice.
Yeah, and I think part of your answer, you're trying to say that you provide a lot more information to individuals that take the plunge and join the project. And I think that that's pretty important for people to understand, and they don't know that on the surface. But I can say that I've invested and that I'm in the process of, going through everything and looking at it. And as an investor, you put out newsletters and information to your users, and that's pretty cool.
Exactly. And there's a lot of the features that we do that are not mentioned on the website, like the auditing that we do of the funds with the members. This is only seeable in the website, because if we would publish auditing reports outside, again, we would get a lot more people coming to us, because it's a level of transparency that we have not seen other projects do, or the emergency withdrawal that is not advertised on the website, but is inside the members area, because the website says 6 months lock of capital, no chance to get your money out, while we still have some means and ways inside the system where you can get your funds earlier. Then we do not mention that we are taking USDT, for example, as a deposit, and that we are also working on USDT withdrawals on the other hand. Then the making of a debit card is in process, that people can use their earnings to pay straight with debit cards, also not mentioned here. And and many other things. But it also gives It also gives us leeway in the future. Should we require more capital, this is an easy way to upgrade the presence to overcome holes in the funding, for example.
How did you first get into masternodes, and what is it you like about masternodes as an investment?
I started masternoding close a little bit longer than 3 years ago when I met Urs, my business partner and the true architect of the offer. I met him in Malta. I used to live in Malta for 3 years, and I used to run Bitcoin ATMs. And he was a frequent exchanger. Like, he came always with a ton of Bitcoin, and he was complaining why he couldn't exchange more than the small amounts, like thousands of euros, and he wanted to go higher. And so I was curious what he was doing, and he said he masternoded. And I met with him a couple of times, and he invited me to his home, and he showed me how the process goes. I started doing it myself because I thought, hey, this is quite great. It's very similar to mining, but I do not need to buy huge machines that need an awful lot of electricity. And this is essentially how we came to it. And when we sat down, we discussed about doing this as a project for a lot of people, of constructing a members area around it, a beta, first inviting a handful of people, doing individual contracts. And from there on, we kept growing and growing.
Are there any plans in the future to show your members potentially like how much money you guys have as like a treasury or reserve fund versus how much money you're making per month, and then like maybe even showing like how much you're paying out per month? I know that a lot of people have questions related to that, in where the money is and what it looks like. Do you ever have any plans on doing that type of thing for the investors?
We do that twice a year in the form of member auditings. And like, for example, the last time we did that was in November. We invited 5 members of Yield Nodes. Like, first we sent out an email where we basically asked who would be interested in coming to Malta to visit the offices and do a member-based audit of the funds, like to see the balance sheets and everything. And we got about 50 applicants back then. We did our video that is still on YouTube where we randomized those entries, and 5 people got chosen. And those people were, unfortunately, they were all from the UK. We would have liked a little bit of more, diversity, but the randomizing script decided, so we had to stick to it. And we invited those people, and they then saw with their own eyes the balances that we have on the nodes and the different coins, the little bit that we needed in Binance, in Crypto.com, in the accounts, and they made a quick assessment. They also got to see how many members we have, how many funds we have collected, the compounding amounts, and they could do an easy equation. We could calculate very easily that what we have is what we need to pay out everyone and the profit. And they signed some agreements that they saw that and that they acknowledged this. And these agreements are viewable in the members area inside of Yield Nodes. Again, not used for advertising purposes because we do not want to, hit the drum crazy about needing more money or something like this, because it's not needed. And yeah, we plan to do the next one in June. This is also information that is not out yet because I'm a blabbermouth, as you can see. In June, we're going to do the next one, and we're going to, again, invite everyone who wants to come. We have a little bit more space now because we're constructing a hub in Malta where we can invite the people and show them everything, also the physical aspects of the masternoding. And we will probably do 10 seats this time because the operation has grown, so there should be more auditors. We're going to invite a few of the faces that were there before to reassess, and also a few new faces, so we cannot be accused of, having the same guys coming over that could be, could have a biased attitude towards the program, rather a few new people. We will do again the full randomizing script, the full randomizing operation online via YouTube video to show that it's completely transparent. And yes, and maybe you guys, someone of your project of community would like to join, you're very welcome.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much for the invite. We'll definitely talk to our team about that for sure.
Yeah, maybe take a Discord field trip there.
Yeah. and bring a few bourbons along.
Oh, we'll bring all
nice.
the bourbon.
To make good financial decisions.
What's the process for selecting masternodes? Like, I know on the website, anyone can see the nodes that you guys are partners with. Like, how do you decide, hey, we want to be partners with this protocol, or we want to run this masternode?
The idea, I'm also wearing the shirt today from our merch. So this is the Cenomy is Yield Nodes is acting as the financier for the Cenomy, which is the big project behind it. The Cenomy stands for decentralized economy, and all these coins that you are scrolling through right now, these are part of the Cenomy network. So this is part of Yield Nodes. All these coins are part of this program that we're building, like of building a decentralized economy where coins can be managed, and also the coin use cases are falling under our responsibility. So because we saw at the beginning when we were masternoding a random coin and we generated more coins, we had little to no influence where the coin was going. Was it being developed? Was the tech good behind it? Was the developers, were they doing the work needed to push this coin out and get it to a broader audience? And so we started doing this with our first coin as a beta test, which is the first on top of the list. It's called Sapphire, SAPP. Exactly here, yes. This is our biggest coin. It's currently a market capitalization of $340 million. It's ranked 240 now on CoinMarketCap, so it grew quite sizable. It was at the beginning, it was a few Canadian guys that had it, and we acquired it for a sum that I don't want to disclose because it is ridiculously low. And we started building out, getting the project a proper team leader, founding a company that is called the Cenomy IT Services in Portugal, which started bringing the coin up to speed from a technological standpoint. And we saw when we went into this coin that it's much more beneficial to build the full economy around it with hiring people, expanding aggressively so that the coin gets used and the coin gets out there in the world. Because when you masternode, you generate coins, but you also want the coin itself to at least hold the value or gain in value and be usable. So if we can combine both worlds, we will have a much higher yield when we exchange the coins back to Bitcoin for our participants. And this is, since then, the trajectory the company is going for, like expanding aggressively, buying up good projects, buying also traffic sources to bring the coins to the people, and then developing the use cases behind the coins that they connect with the economy outside of the internet, for example.
Are there any plans in the future to have more information about the utility of each project in Masternode, and also have that lead into like how much those potentially earn based off of masternoding and token value?
We are working exactly on that one because the first projects are in the pipeline and they will be presented in hopefully 1 to 2 months. Like I said that before, because this is the expertise of Urs, and he's in this segment of the business, connecting the coins, and we already have the partners, we already have the companies, but it takes much more time than we assumed. Everything is going a little bit slower thanks to Corona and now the war, as you know. But we are getting there, and it will be quite some surprises, especially with the generation of energy, battery tech, and solar that we're working for a few of the coins use cases, because the market is crying for it, as you know, because the war that is coming now with the gasoline shortage and everything, it's just quite a good moment for us to announce the project. So we are trying to get this out faster than later.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more overreaching or overarching questions that we've gotten from our community is I see that we're making masternode income. I see that there's a percentage of return going to investors. The transparency of where that money is specifically coming from these overall projects, I think is one of the more telling questions that people have. They kind of want to see that. And it seems like you have a plan, is what you're saying, is you have a plan to show people how that works in the future.
Exactly. This is going to come, as said, 1-2 months, the first project is going to be unveiled. And what you need to see is also that all these coins are growing in size. And what we can do with these coin economies is we can balance them against each other. To give you an example, usually when there's a simple, let's take an example, there's one coin, and there's a lot of people that are masternoding or using that coin. And then there's a guy who says, okay, I generated this much coins, I want to sell my coins, profit, and I don't care about the network stability, I don't care about the coin usage, I just want to turn everything that I have into money. He dumps the coin, the market breaks in, and all the other people are also very disillusioned because the coin value dropped, so they lost a lot of money. They also start selling, panic breaks out, and the coin goes to nothingness. And this is usually how it works. With our system of we have now close to 20 coins under our umbrella, is we can act as market makers. We can stabilize coins. We can push coins upwards. When we see there's a dump happening, we can let the dump play out, buy coins up on the name of our participants and investors up cheaply, and masternode them again, and so act as a balancer of sorts. In the future, this is a very centralized operation right now, but in the future, an AI is going to take this over. And this is then quite a good way of managing and stabilizing the full ecosystem. When you pair that then with the use cases for each coin, where coins can be used to purchase, for example, Sapphire is a consumer coin. With Sapphire, you can already buy vouchers. You can go to Amazon, you can shop with it. Then there will be 777, which is the gambling aspect of the economy system. It will be bound to casinos where you can offset coin value, which is a great way of getting rid of coins while still maintaining a high value for the coin, because gambling is a natural way of offsetting value. Then there's the peony coin, agricultural, where you can prove where meat or where wheat is coming from, in the blockchain transparently. This is what peony is going to be used for. And then all the 20 coins that we have are going to have use cases. Maybe we acquire a few coins, maybe we merge some, maybe we let a coin go, but we can direct everything on behalf of our clients, which are yield noders.
Nice. I saw on the website, and I might be getting this wrong, but if a project fails to return 5%, if this project fails to return 5% for 3 consecutive months, there's some kind of payment refund along. Has that happened yet? Has the project ever failed to return at least 5% for 3 consecutive months?
There was, for 1 month, we were pretty close. Before 2 years ago, when Corona came, we were a little bit under 5%. We decided, because we were a little bit chickening out, we decided to waive our 15%, and we managed to make a return of 5.3%. So that was the lowest that we paid out so far. But what I want to make very clear with these guarantees, this is again a guarantee against, let's say, laziness on our part, that we are not masternoding, not staking, or not doing anything. So that if the return of 5% for 3 months is too little for you, you can get your money out and invest in some other project if this is too little for you. However, if the market breaks down and there's a panic and we have not the funds anymore to sustain that, then the agreement supersedes this offer, because we have an agreement where we do not disclaimer that you need to sign, where you need to understand that we cannot influence force majeure events. If something is happening, like crypto is forbidden or anything like that, where we cannot have not the physical ability to pay out the coins, that this agreement supersedes this promise. Very important.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it's almost like, and I don't want to give it a moniker, but it sounds like you're kind of giving like an investment assurance, right? Like almost like exactly. You're providing a sort of insurance. If you put your investment into this project, you do have some sort of backfall. Is that kind of the purpose of this?
This is the purpose, because we noticed a few people, the 6-month lock irks a few people, like to lock your funds in for 6 months. That is something that people is probably the biggest deal breaker in our office to some, because they like instant access. We also changed there something inside the system which is not advertised on the website, which is called the emergency withdrawal, that you can access your funds at any time and get them back in Bitcoin in under 48 hours, but it would eat 25% of the capital. This is also a safe failback, I think, or a fail-safe, sorry. Fail-safe is the right word. It's a fail-safe, because if someone, for whatever reason, needs access to the funds, even though he committed it for 6 months, there can be a medical reason, there can be someone really desperately needs the funds. We do not want to block that. And at the same time, however, this penalty is used to stabilize the system, because the 25% will flow back into the pool for masternoding to not hurt the other yield noders. Because what we always do is, when we generate revenue with the coins, at the point of withdrawal, we need to sell them back in a very good, opportune moment for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin fluctuates a lot. And if our hand is forced because someone needs to quickly get the funds back, this can result in not exactly high losses, but probably not many gains. And so this was built in with that in mind.
Yeah, I think that it's important to for people to understand, when we looked at your project, we didn't just come up with, negative things or criticisms. I think this is one of the things that we found that was surprising, because there are not many. I can't come up with any off the top of my head that specifically say that if our returns don't match what you want, we will potentially give you your money back, and we're putting that in writing. And I think a lot of different projects could potentially look at that as something, as an influence. And you mentioned that one of the criticisms you get, one of the major criticisms you get, is the 6-month lockup period. What would you tell people that have that as an issue, if that's like a deal breaker? What would you say to them, and how do you justify the 6-month lockup period?
The 6-month lockup period is essentially a protection for all of us that are in the project, as me included. Like, I have 25% of my liquid assets in our masternodes. And the reason being is that within these 6 months, if the market tanks, for example, I can make a comparison with the Forex market. When the market tanks down in Forex, your capital goes, you trade on leverage, and your capital goes lower and lower, and you're sweating, because if you're reaching a certain point, your capital gets liquidated, and afterwards, even if the market recovers, you're left with nothing. In masternoding, you generate coins, and these coins are there, and they're not leveraged or hedged. So if the market tanks and you need to get out of the market and you panic sell and you get your money out of yield nodes, this harms all the other people that are still inside the project. If this panic can be mitigated, or you need to sit it out for a little bit longer, usually what goes lower later comes back up. It's always waves in the markets. So it will stop people from panic selling and to saving the full network. Unless they really need the money, go to the emergency withdrawal, lose 25% of the capital, strengthening or softening the blow, so to speak. So in essence, it's a protection for all of us to keep yield nodes running the way it is and generating the returns. It's the same with the long withdrawal windows that we have, that when you ask for withdrawal, that you need to wait about 20 to 25 days to get it credited, because we do not keep any Bitcoin. When we get the deposit, we exchange it for coins for masternoding, and then we need to exchange it back for Bitcoin and pay it out. So for us, it's not good to hold any Bitcoin, because Bitcoin that we hold is not masternoding. So we need that time frame to assess how much Bitcoin is needed to pay out, to plan specifically for that withdrawal day, and therefore truly generate what we preach that we do. For me, I'd like to make a comparison always to all the other projects that are paying out within 24 hours, and try to make people remember that if a program takes money and pays out instantly, what is going on behind the scenes? Because the money is not, if they use the money to generate something, how can it be there to be paid out instantly? How can it be so easily movable if you're using it? So this is like a comparison I like to make.
You're commenting on the fact that you have to schedule when you pull investment profits, and I think that's one of the things that I've read about too. Overall, we did a pretty big deep dive in the people that have done research and reviews on your project, and what we found is that overwhelmingly, like 90% is what the scores were. 90% were 5-star reviews, 5% were 4-star reviews, and then everything below that, the rest of that 6% was kind of mixed. But what we found is that when people were attacking the project, they weren't really attacking the economics of the project. They were kind of attacking like the overall idea. Like, for example, they'd make a statement like, "This is a Ponzi," right? That's a typical response to these type of projects, but there's no real constructive criticism. What would you say to those individuals that are just attacking the project as a whole and that aren't really invested? Because you can tell they're not invested because they're not giving detailed descriptions of their complaint.
You're referring mostly to the Trustpilot reviews, right? That we're using, I think, because a lot of those are also fake because they're like, they put another project name in right now. As of late, we got something like the withdrawal process takes too long. You should go to Bitcoin, to some URL, because there the withdrawals are instant. It's like hidden marketing. So those usually are being deleted by Trustpilot in the long run automatically. And I like to put a warning underneath it if you say, okay, this website is making 50% a day. It's kind of, how should I say, word this in a nice way? It's a scam.
Right.
1000% a scam. Like,
so you're saying you have no
Fred or my
control
grandma.
over those reviews.
Exactly, yes. And like what we do is like we pay on time, and the profits that we make through the auditing, we can prove that that it worked in the past. And so if these metrics, like the return between 5 and 50% a month that we generated, is not enough for someone or something or some other element, because at the end of the day, actually, the only thing that matters is that you're getting your returns. The rest is all a little bit a luxury element, like you don't get them in under 20 days, or you get them only in Bitcoin. So if we are fine with getting 5 to 15% every month, and we proved that we did that, and you understand the system, and you still do not like the program, this is perfectly fine as well. You can leave your criticism. We're not taking it personally at all.
Right.
And everyone his own.
Well, in one of your more recent newsletters, I think it was your last one, you actually made a pretty strong comment. A lot of people say that this is a Ponzi scheme, and if you're not aware of Ponzonomics and how that works, you got to Google it and look it up. I'm not going to explain that to our listeners. But what you said in response to that was, you said that the project does not utilize new investors' funds to pay existing investors. Can you please explain that a little bit further? Because if that's true, then it couldn't be a Ponzi scheme, like by definition.
No, we also, because we generate, when we did the auditing, we can show that we generate more value than the value that came in that was invested. We can prove that by showing our balance sheets. We have more money that we had out of investments. So we can prove it very easily mathematically that we generate value in what we do. And when you generate something, and Ponzi economics dictate, you take money, you pay a percentage, and you always use the gains that you got from investors to pay out all investors, then this is just not true. And with this auditing, we can prove that, and we do that twice a year. So at least what we can do is, this is not a promise for the future. In the future, something can always happen. But that what we did in the past 2.5 years worked, and that we really generated value. So from this point on, you can then make your own assessment and say, okay, this is something we would like to get behind, or but that it is a Ponzi, I can definitely deny then. And everyone who sees the numbers then as well.
Going back to the master nodes, are there any nodes that you run that aren't on the website, like Ethereum or Phantom or Avalanche or Polygon or anything like that?
There are, I believe, currently 2 coins that we are in dealings with, discussions if we should take over a big portion and add them to the Xenomi network, but none of those big coins, because they're already from a size, from the amount, from the sheer size that they reach, they're too big for us, and we have no direction on those coins. We prefer to take smaller projects, build them out, that have a bigger stake, more direction behind it, so we have less risk in our opinion. Also, because if you stake Ethereum or Masternode, you don't get the returns needed to pay the returns that we're offering. It would be, and don't get me wrong, it's a great thing to do, to stake and Masternode as soon as you can, different coins for stability. I'm all for it. It's just not fitting the Xenomi high yield, high risk company. Help me with the word, please. Company statement.
Oh yeah, like their the way that they operate.
Exactly. It's like, for us, we are high risk but high yield, and we position them in this market segment.
Do you guys have investments into Bitcoin nodes at all? Because you guys accept Bitcoin and utilize Bitcoin a lot. I had an assumption when I first started with the project that you guys were investing in Bitcoin noding.
We exchange, the moment we get Bitcoin, we exchange it for our coins that we see on the website in according to our secret metric that always changes depending on, like, for example, 60% Sapphire, 20% 777, 10% Peony, and this changes frequently according to the market needs. So we shift those coins around, but we do not hold any Bitcoin. The moment you invest, we peg the value of the Bitcoin against euro as a stable coin, and then we try to generate the profits based on that, always to get profits backed against that stablecoin metric, so that you can basically get between 5 and 15% profits against a stable value.
All right, Draco, you got any more questions? We covered quite a bit of this.
Yeah, I have a couple. So I like one of the things that you've done, and you've done it even in our show. It says, as always, when partnering with us, Yield Nodes, it's a risky venture. Do not overcommit and treat it as part of your portfolio. You guys plaster that all over your documentation, and even in this interview, you mention those type of things. I think that that's a good thing. But more specifically, what are some of the biggest risks that could negatively affect Yield Nodes?
The full noding ecosystem, all the coins, they are going very close to the Bitcoin value, meaning if Bitcoin sinks, all these ecosystems, including ours, is sinking as well. Now, what we do is we have more control over coins, and we saw from past performance that we can soften the blow that Bitcoin gets a little bit. So usually when Bitcoin sinks a little bit, our coins sink, but not as much. And when Bitcoin rises, our coins rise, but a little bit more. So it's a little bit puzzling, because actually it should be negative, negative, positive, positive. But with our methodology of shifting the coins and controlling so many Discord channels, giving out news and understanding our communities and speaking with people and getting them to hold through bad market situations, it's a much different beast than Bitcoin. But still, if Bitcoin would fall like tremendously, this would be a major deal breaker for it. Then we could even lose some of the capital. Not all seems very unlikely, even though we put it in the agreement. Like, I personally now, and this is a personal assessment, do not see us losing everything, but partial losses could be possible.
Yeah, that would be my next question. Can you provide me a scenario where an investor could lose a portion of their initial investment or all of their initial investment? Could you describe what that would look like?
So basically, the partial I probably just described, when Bitcoin falls too low so that it drags all the ecosystem with it, and it stays low. This is the point. If it stays low over a couple of months, then we start sweating. If it falls low and it comes back up in a matter of days, which Bitcoin usually did in the past, when there was a panic and it spiked down and came back up, we will be there and probably stronger than we were before. This is, to me, one of the biggest advantages. I used to do a lot of Forex projects before, and this is, to me, a great advantage over Forex and trading, because in trading, you're always hedging your position, and you always trade leveraged way, and leverage too low means liquidating everything. And this is not something that can happen to us, thankfully.
And would you guys have some sort of a fail safe or some sort of I guess, like, if it happened quickly? Obviously we discussed that if you provided less than 5% over the course of 3 months, then you could potentially allow people to pull their funds out. But, like, let's say that there was a crash or something like that. Is there any sort of fail safe or protection for people to be allowed to pull their money out in the chance that there's a market crash?
The emergency withdrawal is probably the go-to feature that still a lot of people use, even if there's no emergency at all. Like, for example, to give you a little bit more insight, I process right now every day between 5 to 15 emergency withdrawals. They're not really emergencies at all. You don't need to give a reason, but I like to ask people why this is. And they say, for example, I think if I go into Bitcoin now, for example, I can make more profits because I think Bitcoin is going to spike. So I'm aware, and I have like 20,000. I'm losing 25% of 20,000 is like 4,000 or 5,000. Mm-hmm. But this is okay because I believe I can make more gains. So please do that. And this, to me, is the kind of emergency withdrawal that benefits the long-term investors in yield nodes, and I like because the person is well aware they need to pay this fee. They get out fully knowing they are not unhappy, they're okay. Maybe they profited a lot more than 25% in 2.5 years. A few of them made like 200%, so they're quite happy still. And it protects the program. So I believe this is a great fail-safe that benefits both sides, the long-termers and the short-term people who want their money close at heart, so to speak.
You're talking about long-term investors for Yield Nodes project, and I think that is important to focus on those type of people. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up that I saw on your website after signing up and becoming a member, I don't think a lot of people know about this, but I want you to expand on it a little bit. When you sign up, if you give all the information and everything is approved, you have an option to have a benefactor for your account. If you specifically don't sign in or log in and check your account for a determined time frame on your own behalf, you can choose like 3 months, 6 months, or a year. You can assign a benefactor, such as a family member or your spouse, that can access your account. Can you tell us why you've decided to do that and why you think that that's an important feature to have?
Because we honestly think we are here for the long term, we go for the long run. And we know that people, unfortunately, and this is the reality of things, people can die, can get sick, something can happen. And scammy programs, I do not know of any program that does something like this, because scammy programs know they won't be here longer than 1-2 years at most and just run with the funds. And we want to be a long-term program, and we want to give people the opportunity. So we thought this was a great way of securing your assets for your children, for your loved ones, and to also prove that we want to be here for the long run. I think it's a great option.
Yeah, has it ever been utilized? Hey,
coming in
absolutely. I have my kids too. My kids have walked in on a couple interviews.
He just learned how to open the door, and now the privacy is gone.
Has that process ever been utilized, where somebody has enacted that beneficiary portion?
A lot of people fill it out, and so far one case has happened where one member unfortunately deceased and got it to his better half. Yes, it has happened.
Yeah, well, and that's great. And what I wanted to say was, I'm not aware of any other projects that even offer that. And, I haven't spent a lot of time researching and looking at it, but I'm aware of a lot of projects that I've researched in the past and been a part of, and I've never even heard of that. And I think that it's another form of innovation that you guys are providing that's outside of your typical innovation that are involved in crypto projects. And I applaud that idea.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only other question I have looking at is one of the other comments that we had or questions that we had from our community was, during the research process, we noticed that a lot of the Masternode websites are the same or very similar. And that kind of threw up some red flags for individuals that have had problems with other projects in the past that may have been scammed and things like that. Is there any comments or reasons why all of those Masternode projects are very similar and have the same type of website layout?
It's quite easy to explain, because it's the same designer, and probably except a few exceptions, it's the same designer, and we are very early still in the project days. So what we did when we acquired this project, because we do not know how far or how many coins will be under the Yield Nodes umbrella in the long run. So what we did was, when we take over projects, we give it a very basic website. We take over the Discord channel and the communities, which is the people behind it, because a coin is mainly made and maintained by the people that believe in it. So we find the girls, the good guys behind it, who want to take over this coin, who want to bring it to fruition, who want to work it out and connect it to the economy. And as a starting point, we give a very template-ish start website. We bring the code of the coins up to speed in our IT services company. And from there on, everything is going to change. But this is in the future. This is the reason. So that's why everything looks pretty similar, because we need to bring up everything to a certain standard. And from there on, then the individual projects are going to start.
Yeah, absolutely. as we continue to talk about your project and build our friendship with you and your developers, we want to remind everybody that's listening to this and that is considering this that this is a risky investment. All of crypto is risky. I hope that some of the questions that we have and criticisms that we've discussed, you can take with you maybe and talk to your team about, and saying, hey, people have a lot of questions about our website, this and that. I think that this is a very organic and professional discussion that we're having, and we'd like to continue to be able to reach out to you as you grow. And one of the things that you've discussed in the past,
in your Discord channel, I'm probably not very reachable, but if you need me, I joined. So let me know, and we can maybe do some questions and answers in the future, some sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that don't know, Steve has joined our Discord channel at Bourbon-n-Blockchain, and I think that's pretty cool. And we'll be able to get direct access to the CEO of the project if we need to. One of the last questions I have is, you mentioned that you might close doors if you get to a certain amount or a certain number of investors. Is that still on the table? I think I'd heard that maybe 6 months ago. You said you were considering potentially closing doors. Is that still on the table?
It could be, but we would do that only if we see that more investors are not beneficial to the program. And so far we saw the more money that we have and the more coins that we manage, we get more and more exposure in the cryptocurrency scene. And this is very beneficial to yield noders, because to take an example, there's a coin and the coin grows and the coin reaches on the top charts like CoinMarketCap a higher position and has a very good performance. A lot of people see that coin, even non-noders and non-stakers, they see this coin and they buy it as an investment. And this is the best kind of investors you can have, because they're not investing in yield nodes, but they buy and they hold coin value, which in turn increases the coin value, which then secures the returns for the yield noders, for our community. So it's beneficial at the moment.
Absolutely. Any other questions that you have, Smokey?
Nope. I think you covered everything that I wanted to ask. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate having you. And in this space, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice to have someone who puts their name on it and will come on camera and talk about their project. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Makes the person easier to hunt when things go wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of talked about that beforehand.
It's a lot of responsibility, and I'm well aware, when I'm doing this. So since I started and we're handling this project, I bought myself these devices that measure the blood pressure. I think my blood pressure has increased significantly, my doctor said. So I need to, take it slow a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll finish this off by asking you and giving you the floor. What advice or, what would you tell new investors or even existing investors? What would you want to say to them going forward, for the next, for the rest of 2022? And what would you tell the haters that are saying that all you guys are going to do is take all this money, close the doors and run?
To the haters, we are well known now. We show our faces everywhere in videos, in chats. Also, Urs is a well-known guy. He's meeting a lot of people in real life, and when we're doing the first meetings in Malta in the hub, is also going to be well known. If we were to scam, or if our intention was to scam, we probably would have never started showing ourselves. As far as I know, that would be the first thing to not do when running a scam, probably on the checklist number one. And else, be really careful how much you invest. Never do put everything that you got into a single project, even if you like yield nodes or think this is a good project. Plant a little seed, plant a little bit of money. Our minimum is 500 euro, but if you want to go lower and you really want to try, you can write our support. We can lower it on specific accounts to 150 euros, just a little bit, so that you can partake. We don't do that as a standard because we would get too many people joining us, but for individuals to take the time to email us and say, look, I want to plant a seed, it's also a possibility. Do your research, watch a lot of YouTube channels. There are a few good ones out that explain grid trading, which is interesting, decentralized finance, yield farming. All those are very interesting projects where you diversify. You can also make some good returns. And don't leave your money in the bank. doing nothing, buy stocks, buy assets in companies you believe in, and follow Bourbon-n-Blockchain.
That's great advice.
Follow more the blockchain, less the bourbon.
After you invest, you drink the bourbon.
That's good. That's good advice. Yeah, invest, drink bourbon later.
Absolutely. Well, sir, thank you very much. You're a legend.
It was very...
You're a professional. Thank you very much for having this conversation with us, and we look forward to speaking with you in the near future. All right,
Thank
that's
you
it.
very much for having me. Best of luck, and glad that I was invited.
Thank you.
Guys.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for listening.